call this regular meeting of the Wetzel County Board of Education to order. We did have some technical difficulties at 6 o'clock, so it is 6:02 as we're calling this regular meeting into session. Let the record reflect that Jay Yeager is not available this evening. We will begin with the opening Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Cooley, followed by the invocation, which I will share. Anyone not wishing to participate may stay seated.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we just continue your blessings upon us as we strive to make choices and decisions that affect Wetzel County schools. We're thankful for the great blessings that we have in this life and how you can encourage us through difficult and challenging times. We pray for continued blessings upon us. We pray that you give us a heart of kindness and service towards others. We just pray that you will strengthen us in all that's good and right. And we pray this through Christ's name. Amen. Amen. The first item on the agenda tonight are delegations, and we do have one. Marley, welcome to take the floor.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Marley Amos, as most of you all know. I'm here on behalf of AFT Wetzel County. We're asking for some clarification tonight on the new schedule of supplemental bonuses that are on our agenda. First and foremost, we're not here to target any one group or an individual, but in regards to the clarification, are these bonuses being given to staff that are already in place? Are the positions being divided and given to different staff members? Or are these new positions that are being created altogether? The bonus scale was a little confusing and a little ambiguous, so we're just asking for clarification and some transparency on that. So large sum of money, and so there's that's being proposed for these additional certifications. The amount of money suggested for the bonuses are a bit extreme and somewhat offensive to other employees. Teachers and classroom aides are not given bonuses for additional certifications they carry or earn, and said certifications are being paid for from our own pockets. We do realize that some of these positions are hard to fill, but we're also short 10.5 teacher positions this year. If the justification is that these individuals could go to other industries and make more money, the same could be said for our teachers. We are a border county. Teachers and support staff could very easily go elsewhere for employment. We would also like some clarification on how and why these proposed bonuses are being given. We're not in the private sector where CEOs are given large bonuses every year. If we're looking to try to level the playing field, please consider something that's fair across the board, not just a select few. Our school staff in direct contact with students have been asked to go well above and beyond their assigned job duties. Workloads have doubled, sometimes tripled, to accommodate our students as much as physically and mentally possible. So we're just asking that this proposal be tabled this evening until some of these questions have been answered fully. Then after some of these questions can be answered, we request a bonus proposal that's fair across the board for our service personnel and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda then is the presentations, the Wetzel County Schools app presentation. Mr. McPherson.
Okay, hang on 1 second, I'll put it up there so everybody can see. Maybe I will. Getting the feeling I should have stayed at home this evening.
For those watching the recording, you're not being left out of the loop. the silence is while the technology gets corrected here, not that we've lost or muted audio.
While I wait for this to catch up, which worked so flawlessly before we began the meeting, I'm presenting this because there were some questions about where you might find a calendar that lists everything going on around the county in one place. Honestly, this was a goal of the superintendent a couple years ago, and I did a presentation then, but that's been a couple years ago. So I understand now why there might be some folks who don't know, but each school maintains a calendar of their activities that appears on their website. And because it appears on the website, it also translates straight through to the app, which is what we wanted, because we wanted our schools to have one place to maintain all of their activities so that everyone would know what was happening at any given moment there, without making someone put something on 2 or 3 different calendars, because I'm honest, it's maintaining the website is something that can be hard to find someone to do, because it's one of those jobs you end up doing for free most of the time. So, but anyhow, it looks like we're gonna do this without screenshots. I think you guys all did receive a little how-to that I put together a week or 2 ago that I copied Mrs. Wells on as well. And once you load the app, it's very simple. If you subscribe to all the schools, your calendar will show all of the schools, and then you won't have to, you can just, if you have a date where you're like, boy, I'm not doing anything on December 10th, you can click on December 10th and see what's happening around the county on December 10th. So, again, I apparently should have just stayed home today instead of trying to use technology. So, I had a great screen mirroring app, but it's decided not to work. So, if you have any questions about the app or have any trouble installing it on anything you have, by all means let me know and I'll be glad to give you a hand.
Thank you, and it's okay. It's technology, it happens.
Every day, trust me.
Yeah, I know.
It should work.
Yes,
Okay.
it should work.
Next item on the agenda is a proclamation, the American Education Week proclamation. I have that before me that the board has signed, and I'll read it if that's okay with you, Mrs. Wells. In the American Education Week proclamation, and the week is November 15th through the 19th, 2021 this year. And the proclamation simply reads, whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing your people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality, and whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future, and whereas education employees, be they substitute educators, cooks, custodians, teachers, bus operators, secretaries, maintenance, mechanics, aides, or librarians, work tireless to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism, and whereas schools are community linchpins, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now therefore, we, the Wetzel County Board of Education, serving as Wetzel County Schools, do hereby proclaim November 15th through the 19th, 2021 as the 100th annual observance of American Education Week. As an expression of our gratitude, we will dismiss school at 12:15 p.m. on Friday, December 17th, so that the holiday break can begin early, and we certainly wish for an enjoyable and rewarding school year to all of our employees at Wetzel County Schools and to our students and parents and community as well. And so that proclamation has been provided, and certainly want to share that with everyone.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next item on the agenda is superintendent's information. And so, Mr. Wilson.
Okay, I'm really excited because we have our first official visit by the SRAB to one of our schools for a curriculum instruction review, and that's tomorrow. And in front of you, I placed an example of the classroom observation form that will be used at Valley High School tomorrow as they go through their for their CIR. And you will see they have general information, standards and objectives, engagement. Turn it over. Questioning strategies, etc. Summary then, and then of course they have a specific place for math classrooms only, and then a lesson plan review. They go to Valley tomorrow, and then they will go at the end of the week to Hunter High School, and so that's where SREB will be this week. As a little review about what SREB does for us as far as the curriculum instruction review is they conduct reviews at each school. to learn about the school and classroom practices that are in place in order to make any recommendations. The initial reviews will include surveys, collection of assignments, assessments, lesson plans, course syllabi, and artifacts of collaboration, which would include meeting minutes and agendas, etc. There'll be a review of school data, classroom observations, and some interviews, and their goal is to learn as much as they can about the school and classroom practices with regard to 2 areas of focus, instruction and support. So that is what they'll be starting tomorrow in Wetzel County Schools at Valley High School, and then we'll be continuing until they make it through all 9 of our facilities. They will be doing a tech centers that work, a curriculum instruction review as well at Mrs. McPherson's facility. And that document looks a little different, and at the next board meeting, I'll give you that document to look at, to see what they look for in the tech centers that work, curriculum and instruction review. Are there any questions from the board about SREB and their visits?
Do we know how many counties, this has nothing to do with Wetzel County specifically, do we know how many counties avail themselves of the SREB services in West Virginia?
I don't know exactly how many counties. I will say that when we go to national conference, West Virginia is relatively well represented.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. If there are no further questions, I would like to talk a little bit about Marshall University and an opportunity that we have to be a third-party contract, whatever, for sponsored courses. I did talk to you a little bit about that. We met the other day with Dr. Eric Emsch, who reached out to Marshall University, and Mr. Cook, and we've reached out, and we are very confident that we are going to be able to be a third-party contract with Marshall University. And what this means is that we may sponsor any course, institute, workshop, special course, or any educational program offered by the university for credit here in Wetzel County Schools. And the really positive thing about this, in addition to just getting the education, is that they waive the enrollment fees, they waive the registration fees, and they reduce tuition. We know that to get a master's degree now in the state of West Virginia runs anywhere from $36,000 to $48,000. And this will be a significant reduction in cost for people who wish to get a master's degree. If they wish to get a certificate program, even less, of course, because less course hours are required. And then through the county and some of the state established tuition waivers that we have, it's gonna be a real benefit and bonus for our people trying to either, one, gain just the credits they need to recertify, to re-up, and then 2, if somebody wishes to pursue a master's degree or a certificate, that opportunity is available for them at a reduced price as well. So we're very excited. I'm a WVU graduate, never thought I would say go herd, but here I am. So.
For those of us that were in the system forever and a day, is this going back similar to what like the summer academy was, that we could pick up, people could pick up graduate hours at a reduced?
That's part of it.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Okay.
And that's a huge part of it.
Right, because that
Right.
was really, really good for
Well attended.
employees and everything.
Yes.
It's very well attended when we did.
That's right, and plus it helps them get their credits toward getting renewed.
Getting their certificate renewed.
Yeah.
We would have been in trouble without it.
Right.
Because people were having to drive and do all kind of crazy things.
Well, it's cost prohibitive, especially if you're a new teacher. You know, you're not rolling in the money as a new teacher, and you have to have your 6 hours to renew, and it's expensive. So this definitely helps with the cost of that as well.
I think it's a good benefit for the employees, period.
I agree, 100%. So we're very excited about that. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions as relates to those matters? The next item on the agenda then is under Superintendent's recommendations. The first item is the approval of minutes from the regular meeting on October 25th. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Has been moved to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Has been moved and properly seconded to accept the minutes from October 25th. Are there any questions regarding those minutes? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? They are approved. The next item on the agenda is personnel matters. And we'll point the board's attention to, Shauna M. Kendall has, pulled her bid from that position, so you can scratch that off of your agenda list. Otherwise, I do not believe there are any changes as it relates to that personnel matters list. Are there any questions regarding that list that could be asked in open meeting? If not, is there a motion?
I so move that we approve the superintendent's recommendations as outlined under personnel matters.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Again, are there any questions relating to those matters? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda are the routine matters. A couple of different things there, and I will mention that, I know there are two items there that are related to leasing places to park buses and leasing a gym facility in Payton City, and I do believe, and correct me if somebody understands it differently, but I do believe those numbers have not changed. Those amounts are the same that we have been paying those two entities as it relates to those matters. I believe they did not change. Are there any other questions or clarifications as it relates to those routine matters?
I move to accept the routine matters.
Thank you.
Second.
Has been moved and properly seconded to accept the routine matters. Again, are there any questions relating to those? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. And that includes approval for payment of bills for the month of October, and any transfers or increases in the budget. I'm assuming there are no transfers or increases in the budget, we just need to approve the payment of the bills for October, is that correct?
I have a couple of questions. Do I have to wait till a motion's made or?
No, if you've got a question about a payment of a bill, then that's fine.
Yeah, there's three. I usually talk to Mr. Lancaster on the phone, and I didn't realize he was gonna be out of the office today, so, it's nothing, I mean, I'm just curious. The McKinley and Associates for $97,000, is that a continuation of work they've done? Is that for what we're gonna be doing at Payton City? Is it doing?
I personally do not know
Okay.
the answer to that. Mr. Batten, do you know the answer to that? I do not.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Lancaster would be better equipped to answer that probably.
Well, everything I've always asked him, he's come back and it's
Yes,
been fine,
yes.
so I'm not.
Right.
And then there were two companies, cause I go through these each month, each time, that I didn't know. Richardson Copy Concepts for almost $21,000. Do we know
That's who we
that?
lease copiers through every year.
That takes care of that, thank you. And Borden Office Equipment for $24,000.
Is that here? That is this. That is the redoing of.
Redoing,
Yes.
sir. Okay, those are my three questions.
Okay.
Board members, any other questions as it relates to the payment of the bills for the month of October? Not hearing any, is there a motion to approve that payment of bills?
I move to approve.
Has been moved to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Has been moved and properly seconded to approve the payment of bills for October. Again, any questions? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Treasurer's report is approved. Next item on the agenda are two policies. One is in second reading, EFCAA. It's probably prudent for us to maybe sever these in relationship to how we address them. And so I'm going to first deal with the policy EFCAA in its second reading for approval tonight, that we had on our last agenda relating to What's County Schools Wellness Policy that had to have some tweaking done just because of the nature of our circumstances with supplies and things of that sort. So is there a motion to accept that second reading of EFCAA?
I move to approve the CAA wellness policy.
It has been moved to accept EFCAA. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Has been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions as it relates to that policy? Not hearing any, all in favor of accepting on second reading policy EFCAA, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? EFCAA is approved and revised on second reading. The next item then is the first reading of policy Gdba, and anytime there are what appear to be, well, let me rephrase that, what are drastic changes, there's always going to be question, and I perfectly understand that. I would preface just a little bit as it relates to this policy change that the board had encouraged Mrs. Wells and her team to begin to find ways to start shrinking employee numbers down, and including in particular central office and administrative positions. And with the oncoming retirements that are happening soon, I believe this is a response to that, where we're going to not post the ancillary director position.
That's right.
These supplements are going to be used to hire people to serve in those capacities, and sever those responsibilities into maintenance and transportation. And am I correct in my conclusions about why these changes? Is there anything I've missed as it relates to that so far?
You are correct, sir. And Mr. Cook is gonna go a little more in depth with you. The bottom line is, we wanna put the power to lead the transportation departments and the maintenance department back in the hands of the service personnel. They are service personnel, they are experts in that area, and we felt it only right, and with the recommendation of Mr. Batten, is upon leaving this, he felt it was the right thing to do, is to place the leadership of the people with people who have experience in those areas.
Board members, do you have any other questions or thoughts that you need to ask relating to this policy?
Well, I've received, I'm sure you guys have too, many text, calls, messages, over this, and I think part of it is not understanding that we weren't going to be posting position. I wish there was somehow we could have gotten that out so that there wouldn't have been as much conflict on it. And so I understand that's why the two supervisors, the one of transportation, the supervisor of maintenance and the facilities are the 20,000, I believe that's it. But-
Facilities and maintenance foreman and supervisor of transportation.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
But when I was asked questions, I couldn't answer why we're doing certain certifications, get you different things, and we don't do that with electricians, we don't do that with teachers, we don't do that with aides. Why are we doing that with mechanics?
Yeah, and that's not new. That's
Okay.
always been part of the supplementals for mechanics.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the only change is that we're offering more, hopefully that they would step up and get some of those certifications. At this time, nobody has gotten those certifications for the amount that's listed there. So, we were hoping to entice, some of the mechanics at the time to get involved and get those ASE certifications, cause that can only make us stronger in the garage. Mechanics wise, we've got 3 right now, but I see in my crystal ball, I'm gonna be down to 1 very shortly. And the people that I've had take the test and pass the test, as soon as they found out how much they were gonna make, they left immediately. They didn't even wait around for the coffee to get cold. And yes, I'd like to, get somebody, get them in there, hold them accountable to that position, and keep them as long as I possibly can when we get somebody in there good. Mechanics wise, they also have to have CDLs, they also have to be able to drive buses. This time I don't have that except for 1, and, that's an issue for us. I don't have anybody I have 1 guy that can go out and get a bus if we have an issue on the road, take a bus to the kids, so that'd be 7 days a week for that guy. He has volunteered to give up half of his title. He was supervisor of transportation and chief mechanic. Chief mechanic hasn't been something he was paid for with the $1,600. He was paid for being the supervisor of transportation, but he never really was supervisor of transportation. That was something that was just given to them as they took that position, as the person before him had it. was considered the supervisor of transportation, and they got a $1,600 stipend based on a 200-day work schedule. That's not, after talking to that individual, you know, we came to the conclusion that they're not really supervisor of transportation. That would be this person that would be taking Mark's, or Mr. Batten's position on the bus side. And that's why I'm asking, $20,000 to supplement their income, in that position, and facilities and maintenance foreman, on that side of the house also, $20,000. And I think that's a good number. And that is what it is. It's not 20,000 based off of a 200-day work schedule. That is 20,000 based off a 261-day work schedule, which some of these positions up here above that are based off of 200-day work schedule, but most of those people are 261s. So I wanted to make that apparent and straightforward, that the $1,000, if they do that, is based off of 261 down there also. And all those positions that say 261 are 261. Now, I foresee us in the future looking at the rest of this when we go through the policies, but right now, the need is what we have down here.
We have the newest fleet of buses in the state, and we are unable at present to keep them all on the road with our current circumstances.
Any, go ahead, no, you're fine.
Now, when you say we go down the road, are we gonna relook at what coordinators are making? Are we going to relook at
I think
what
when
aides and teachers? I mean,
when we do the policy, and that policy comes back up, then you're gonna have to, yes. But right now, I don't think is the time to do all that.
Mr. Barkus, when are we going to, have you heard any more from the lawyer? We're doing financial next, right?
Correct,
So we don't know when we'll get to personnel yet.
correct.
Again, it's up to this board as to that decision.
I understand this. I just know the morale issue, but the number of people that have gotten in touch with me it upset many, many people.
I gotta get the buses fixed, I gotta get the bus drivers on the road, that's huge. And if we can't get the buses out there and get them running, and keep our mechanics.
And if we don't have somebody that can go, if there's an emergency to go get these kids, if they're down in Charleston for a meet or whatever, if we don't have anybody to do that, we're in trouble.
Can I just ask for clarification, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'll form a question. That when it came, in particular, to the supervisor of transportation and the facilities and maintenance foreman, those are gonna be posted? And
I sent you all the postings that were going to be posted.
Yeah, that we're not, in other words, we haven't isolated somebody and said, you're just gonna get, they're gonna have to bid
Absolutely.
and earn that position through a process like anything else.
And that's-
It's not just a matter of saying, here's some extra money.
Right, and then
They're
take
gonna
the
have-
test for foreman or supervisor of transportation.
They're gonna have to do all the legwork that anybody else would have to do in relationship to that, and I think that's an important clarification that needs to be understood.
I was, just questioned, looking at those two, postings, why one you put BS or BA degree preferred, but not the other one?
One of them was an administrative position in the past,
Okay.
yes. It would be nice if somebody had that, but
It's preferred, not mandatory.
Board members, any other questions as it relates?
I'm just not real clear where we are on this. I mean, maybe it's just age and something else, but it's not coming through clear to me. Like, the $20,000 for the supervisor of transportation and the $20,000 for facilities and maintenance foreman, what's that on top of?
the regular salary. This is a supplemental.
Were they 200 and moved to 261?
Were they? I don't know who they is.
Oh, we don't know who
at this
they are,
point.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know.
So it's kinda unclear what we're adding the $20,000 on top of.
We
At this
eliminated an
point.
administrative position, we will not have an administrative position. So these two positions will have to take on the role that the previous ancillary services director had. So they're going to have a markedly increased job responsibility.
But we're not sure, again, we're not sure the amount that we're adding $20,000 to.
It's their regular salary, right? We're not-
Cause you can't know that until
No.
until the people
No.
bid
Right.
and the person gets hired, you wouldn't,
You
you know
don't
what I
know.
mean, and we can't.
I understand that
Yeah,
completely,
yeah.
but you don't wanna be adding $20,000 to something and it goes over and above what some other personnel are with the same kind of the same responsibilities are making. You know, this is kind of a question mark in my mind. It's kinda stupid, I guess, but I don't know what we're adding $20,000 to.
Yeah, and I understand that question, actually, cause truthfully, what you're saying is, if somebody with a doctorate degree, who's at the top of the salary chain, could technically apply for that position, and they would be getting the 20 on top of a much larger sum than somebody else might be. I guess that.
More or less.
More or less.
It's really dependent upon who bids on it. I mean, and I know that the job description kinda narrows it down.
Yes.
That they have to have certain qualifications, but it's still, somebody's liable to come out of the woods and say, okay, here I am, and I'm gonna make $20,000 more this, and I don't begrudge anybody in either one of these positions, because being over either one of those, you know, those entities is difficult, to say the least.
Since we don't even know if we'll get to personnel this year, I don't even know if we will, on policies. You know, we're making a change in something that's already in policy, can we not just jump to something else? And so that other people can get the increased, now, Mr. Lancaster isn't here, but he's always telling me, yes, we have the money for this, every time I ask him something, yes, we have the money for this. So I just wonder if we could, if we're gonna do this, if we could also set time to start meeting on looking at the personnel policy and the monies there.
Why couldn't we?
Yeah, you can always, that can be put
So
on
I'm
any
saying,
agenda.
not waiting till the lawyer says it's time to do
No.
personnel, but.
You're talking about specific policy from that section, not the entire section.
Not the entire section,
Yeah,
just a
good.
specific section.
Yes.
Yeah, the entire sections, yeah, I've read it.
There's no way we could do that section without an attorney, but the specific policy, that wouldn't be a problem.
Maybe we ask them to put that on the top of their list.
We can do that, yes.
That, yep. And then if they have something completed, then we can get it on an agenda and.
Correct.
And talk about it then. Any other questions as it relates to this policy?
I have a couple.
Sure.
The chief mechanic, are they gonna report to the supervisor of transportation?
Yes.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to get is, how many of these are actual new positions?
Facilities and maintenance foreman and supervisor of transportation have been a name on somebody else's / chief mechanic. And he lost that because he's not really supervisor of transportation. That would be somebody that takes that test and is fulfilling this position that Mr. Batten, does. Sorry, Coach. And that's what I'm saying. Did I explain that, or did I just circle the wagon and kill a bunch of Indians?
I guess in a way, this is kind of the way I'm looking at it, as the, compensation of trying to cut back at the board office. We're eliminating one position and taking on two.
You're right.
That is correct. Okay, that's what I'm trying to.
Possibly.
Possibly, if
Possibly
it's
they
I
gotta
guess-
come from within.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, let's say that they do come from within. Then won't the position that person leaves, that would have to be filled?
Possibly. This is all new, this is all new for all of us. It's kinda like that secretary thing.
Depends on who the
Right.
person is.
Depends on who the person is. and
We
what
don't
they-
know yet.
Yeah, and what.
Right.
What position they're leaving. You know.
if we get people from within, we won't have new benefits to have to pay, cause they'll already have their benefits.
Exactly.
If we get somebody from out of the system, then it's not gonna really save us as much, cause we're gonna have to pay benefits on top.
But we also, on the other hand, play devil's advocate, we've empowered service personnel to lead their own, instead of having a curriculum director or something like that in that position. It's service personnel over service personnel, you know, teachers over teachers, et cetera.
Okay, so like give me best case scenario in a perfect world. We would have the supervisor of transportation and then chief mechanic?
The chief mechanic's already out there. They're there.
I'm just thinking like chain of command and everything. And like in a perfect world, how many mechanics?
Well, we're approved for total of 4.
Okay,
1, 2, 3,
So we would have the
4.
chief and then 3 others.
3 others.
okay, so the chief mechanic,
And
okay.
3 others.
That don't go against, that are in the formula, right? I think if that's what you're driving at, that those 4 are already in the formula, we're not, so if we stay with those 4, if the number stays at 4.
Three.
We were
Three.
approved to hire another one, but we've never been able to hire another.
I got you.
We can.
Well, right, but I'm just saying though, it won't affect, it's not gonna put us one more person over the formula, up to 4 in those capacities, correct? Is that, cause I think is that what you're driving
Right,
at?
right,
Okay.
that's,
It puts us one over. I mean, you approved it. But
we approved it, the state hasn't approved it.
Right. It's not been part of the formula, correct?
No, because we haven't
No,
hired it,
we
we
haven't,
haven't been
right.
able to find it.
Right,
I understand.
yeah.
So 3 then is the number
3.
that is within the state
Mhm.
formula. We approve because of the need,
Mhm.
the ability to hire another, but we can't find anybody to fill that position. I
No,
understand.
that's it, yeah.
Well, the pros and cons of everything,
Yeah.
and sometimes when you're charting new territory, you either gotta decide to give it a go and take the lumps along the way, or not, you know?
I wonder if we gave it a little more time and we had 5 of us here at the next meeting to make a decision. Don't put you way behind if we waited
If
2
I
weeks.
can't post until you guys make a decision one way or another.
And Mark's last day is when?
Into December.
Yeah, end of December, so we need him to train whoever it is too.
Time is not our friend.
No, it's not.
Quite frankly, the only other alternative is to
Dump it and go back to.
go back and post a position.
Right.
So, cause you can't go without it, you know what I mean, it's either gotta be given to somebody or it's gotta be posted and done.
Mhm.
So I think that's the reality of where we sit.
And how do you post supervisor of transportation and put down how much they're gonna make?
It's based upon,
Well, there's a clause, something in the
It
clause,
says here,
yeah.
to be determined by the Wetzel County Supplemental Policy, Gdba.
which you are trying to determine.
It'll
Plus
be the
their-
regular salary plus this supplement, so they'll know.
Most likely they're gonna be a bus driver, so they're gonna get that salary plus whatever they're making.
So if this doesn't get approved and the positions are posted, they know they're getting at least X and plus or whatever's established, they're getting whatever's established plus whatever we approve in this policy. Whether we approve it as it's in the policy here or some other amount. That makes sense?
And I wish there was some template out there.
I do too.
You all looked, I looked, there's no template out there that helps us through this, because it's very few, if, or maybe one or two counties even approaching it this way.
But it's in state code.
It's in code, it's been put in code to be
Yeah.
able to do it.
Right.
So, timeframes. Can you post positions based on a first reading?
No, we gotta wait for that second reading.
Will we be addressing it at the LSIC?
Probably have to be a special, yes, or
Okay.
added to the one, the last meeting.
Otherwise, we're looking at the second Monday of December.
Mhm. Or like Mr. Price said, we just do away with this and post it like it was. As an administrative position.
That sort of helps me with what I said a little bit ago. Because we could approve it on first, but then we would have Jay back for the second, but there would be
Right.
5 of us to vote on it.
And it can be amended in second reading. Legally can be amended. Not advising that necessarily, I'm just saying it, I'm just giving the legal,
The only thing that I see on here that I wish we would've put was down there under the certifications, I think it needs to be, say 261 day also. So that people know that's what they're going to get, they're not getting, an additional amount based off of a 200-day work schedule.
and we can amend it to say that in second reading. We can legally do that.
But we're also, if we pass this on first reading, a corollary to that is that we're above, maybe I missed this somewhere along the line, like I said, age is heck. But we're basically abolishing the 2 administrative positions that exist right now.
One, ancillary director.
Okay.
Just one position, we're splitting in half to 2 people, and that's why they're getting the extra money, and it's 261.
Okay, so we're abolishing,
One director. And
Splitting those responsibilities.
Yeah, you'll still have that in your policy as ancillary director in case, this doesn't work out and you have to go back to ancillary director years down the road, then you've already got that listing in there as a director.
does that have to be someplace? Or is that just understood, that ancillary services is gone?
It's not
It's
on
not.
there. This is the service section,
Yeah.
not on not the professional.
Do you mean, does it need to be stated that we're not hiring that position? I think that,
Yeah, I mean, cause
Yeah, it needs to be
it's
announced.
still on the list. Mr. Batten's position would still be on the,
We could remove it, if you all approve this, we could remove it from the policy that addresses the organizational chart. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Castelo?
right, and then we'd have to have that first and second reading to get it, truly get rid of it, right? Otherwise, there'd be a possibility of an open position there, correct?
well,
Yes.
keep in mind that the policy only governs how do you handle it if you have it. It's not necessarily stating that you must have. The policy simply is stating, if you have an ancillary director, this is the index. And so, I understand the question that, for point of clarity, that these 2 postings that are part of this policy we have before us tonight is an elimination of an administrative position. And the understanding is that's happening to be able to do what we've asked, and that is, to start trimming that administrative staff. And if they came to us and said, we're not posting it, you would just deny it. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't, you know, I'm not trying to, I don't know that we need policy, yet another policy change and yet another policy change, to do that. I think basically it's understood that this is what we're trying to fulfill in relationship with this policy. And if they come back and post it anyway, then you would just vote it down and say, no, we in the minutes of this discussion reflect that we understood that we were approving this policy in order to eliminate that role. So, again, I'm not opposed, if the board if the board wants to pull that policy out and have a revision of it, then that's the will of the board, but my point is simply it's not necessary. Understanding the minutes of the conversation tonight. Any other questions or comments as it relates?
Just want to clarify, this, if somebody votes for this tonight, it's not a closed deal, we still have to do the second reading.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Yeager would be here.
That is correct. It is not being approved. What you're really doing on first reading is you're just moving it forward. You're just moving it forward to the next level. And it can be rediscussed and amended and so forth on that second reading, as is the case with all policy. Really, in many ways, the first reading is just to kind of get it out there.
It's out there.
It's out there. Second readings generally later. So, any other questions? And again, after the first reading, if there's still things, if we approve to push it forward, then if there's still questions out there, now maybe there's an opportunity for folks to redress those questions. They can, now that they understand what's trying to be accomplished, if there are questions, secondary questions that come out of those clarities, then they have their opportunity to do that moving forward into second reading. But again, will of the board. So are there any other questions as it relates to the policy? Then I would ask then, is there a motion relating to the policy? And that is policy Gdba, Wetzel County School Service Personnel County Supplement Schedule. For the benefit of timeliness, I'll move that we at least do something. So I'll move that we vote on first reading of policy Gdba revision. Is there a second to move that vote forward?
I'll second.
Has been moved and properly seconded to move the vote forward on policy Gdba. Again, are there any last questions as it relates to first reading of this policy? Not hearing any, all in favor of moving the policy forward to second reading, say aye.
Aye.
I am also aye.
Aye.
It has been motioned and approved to move the policy from first reading to second reading, and we will find an appropriate moment in the schedule of meetings to address that.
I would think that it would be helpful if there was a memorandum or a summary or whatever of what has been included here, so it's more clear so people can read it, like just, you know what I'm saying, like a storyline about what's actually gonna happen. Rather, I know we've discussed it and it's been back and forth in the conversation, but I think, you know, kind of like a narrative about what's actually happening here. But that's just me.
I don't think, can you add that to an actual
You
policy?
can't add it to the
I didn't
policy,
know.
no.
No, I mean, I'm talking,
Just
not
in
added to the
general.
policy,
Okay.
just a general statement in the minutes or something, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Maybe I've lost my mind.
I understand what you're asking for.
They won't see it till the next agenda.
And they won't, and if it's in the minutes, they won't see it until,
The next agenda goes out for your approval of that.
Right. Well, I understand that, but, you know, we voted to approve an opportunity for folks to go back and they can go back and listen to every word that was said tonight if they so choose.
they will.
Yeah, and that's why it was done. So I think there is an opportunity for people to hear at least and then they may not agree with it, they may not think it's enough clarity, and there can be more questions that come, and that's fine, that's what the process is for. But I think that there's plenty of opportunity for them to understand what has been put forth so far. And they can go back and somebody can even share with them the time frame in which to watch if they wanna jump to that section.
And I do wanna see us move into the personnel policy and pull out what we can do for some other personnel too.
With that being approved, the next item on the agenda is the number 8 is West Virginia Policy 53009, the County Superintendent Performance Evaluation. Do we need any action on that tonight? I know that the state has changed some of the rules as it relates to superintendent evaluation. And we kind of thought we were under a deadline, and then our legal kind of came back and said, no, let's push the pause button.
Right.
And wait for the new template to be kind of submitted. So I think that's what we're doing.
Yes.
We're gonna so we don't need any action on that tonight then. There was some deadlines that the state put in place, and now they're kind of backing off of that a little bit, and we do have some time. I think the concern was if you didn't get we have to approve a evaluation process, and then it's gotta be submitted to the State Department. The State Department has to approve it, then we can put it in policy. But I think they're gonna kind of wait. I think the West Virginia School Board Association, in harmony with some legal counsel and in harmony with the State Board of Education, is working on kind of a templated version that at least would give us a starting place. And board members, you will have an opportunity, once that template hits our desk, then you'll have an opportunity to look at that, think about it, see if things that you want to add, and we might just hold a special session even on that, just so we can iron it all out, because some of that would have to happen in executive, so we'll figure that out once that template hits. So no action on that necessary this evening. So are there any board member committee reports?
I'll be honest, let me look, because the idea of time is like completely gone from me. Yes, I do. On October the 27th, we had the mental health and wellness team, and your scorecard, is that confidential? Okay. The wellness policy that we just approved the second reading for, I personally found this quite fascinating, especially with the fact that we are the ones approving the policy. Ms. McPherson and
Mrs. Prescription. Karen.
you're gonna have to,
Sorry.
Karen, I'm gonna say Karen because I'm gonna butcher
Yeah,
the last
right.
name. They went through the scorecard and scored the various parts using the policy. And one of the sections that we came up as 0 is, and it's 0 through 2, that is where they address the policy if we could. And it specifically states, addresses purchasing local foods for the school meals program, which at the time, we received a 0. And that was the reasoning for the update to the policy. If you guys like, we can get copies of this for you. In general, can you start sending them the minutes that we receive?
The minutes
For the mental health initiative? I don't know if I specifically can.
You mean?
I can though, right? As long as there's no discussion pertaining to it. I can forward it.
Yes.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay. All right, then from.
For the meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
As always, I'm always in awe of what the team does. Most of it truly is over my head. They've discussed starting, a survey for the, employees, checking on mental health and wellness, as well as starting the, SABRS testing for the students. And the rest of it, I'll forward the minutes to you.
Any other board member committee reports? Volunteer, anything, policy still kind of on hold, but we did give you that one priority that we'd like you to look into, thank you.
You're welcome.
Accountability is the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cook, do you have anything?
Testing. We're doing some testing as far as that's concerned. I've been testing, for the position that you approved, the halftime secretary slash accountant. Has not gone very well as far as that's concerned. A lot of very qualified people have decided that they didn't wanna have anything to do with it after the fact, that, they just don't wanna do this halftime thing and then end up, a possibility that, if it doesn't work, it could be a rift. If it goes into that, then they're either being put back into their old positions or another position, depending on whoever the least senior person is that they're gonna be knocking out. So I lost 4 good people there, and, now I'm testing, pretty much weekly, trying to get somebody that can pass the test. And I am down to my last person that I can test, probably be testing in the next week or 2, depending on how she feels about it, cause she's gotta take them all, secretary, accountant, and coordinator. So if they pass the secretary test, we'll move on to the next one, and so forth. If they don't pass the secretary test, then I'm probably gonna be looking to, repost. So maybe coming back to you all with, maybe we need to rethink how we're posting this. So that's where I am with that. Mechanics, I'm testing on November 17th. I got about 6, that I'm gonna be testing, and that is not an easy test either. It's very difficult. It is one of those ASC certified tests, and they walk out here shaking their head going, oh, I don't know. And I got the answers, and I'm saying, oh, I can't even pass it. So it's a tough test, but I want people out there that know this material, that I can trust, to get underneath that bus and do that job and fix that bus and make sure that it's running good before I put my kids in it.
Lives of our kids.
I mean, that's probably, that's one of the most important things that we got out there, our kids, so, if not the most important thing. And, we gotta have good mechanics to do that, and that's where I am with that. That's about really all I got at this point in time. It's just been the testing, and there's been a constant full moon in this county, and several counties. So, gotta get over that.
Anything else?
Ms. Novotny?
Just a couple little things. We're business as usual in our department. 2 things though of note would be, we are, getting ready to provide training on the West Virginia tiered system of support, at the December 1st principals meeting. This is the, process where, we put our students through a universal, targeted, or intensive, program of, intervention. And the areas are academics, behavior, and social and emotional. You may have seen the pyramid at times, and we can provide more information to you at the next board meeting. And the second thing is, Mr. Houston and Mrs. Staniford and I are, looking at closely at the formative assessments for our students with disabilities and the other subgroups as well. And I appreciate their help. We're looking at iReady, Read 180, Math 180, and other formative assessments that are being used in the school. So I want to thank them for that. And Mrs. Cooley, your assistance on our great mental health and wellness team is very much appreciated. Thank you.
I wish I could say I was actually helping.
You are. You are. You absolutely
moral
are.
support.
No. We're in it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burks?
I don't have anything this evening, Mrs. Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson?
Well, I can tell you that my screen mirroring program worked great while you were debating policy, but it's still a no-go. But some good news, we've dug out some pretty old laptops and done some refurbishing on them, and we've asked the teachers countywide if any of them would be willing to swap out for a slightly older one so we could afford a kid another one. And we've had a great response to that. Over 30 people have said, please, please, please. So we're getting things ready, and we're hoping that's going to help us fill in some gaps. And by the end of this week, if we get things going well, we'll have had another 60 or so computers come in to get out. So we're actually a little further ahead. I refuse to be even cautiously optimistic, but I think that we're maybe heading in the right direction finally with that. So that was some very good news. And not that I expected no one would say anything, but it was amazing how fast people started firing back and saying, you know, please, 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 I'll make do with this one if we can make sure one of our students has one. So it was a very overwhelming and happy response. So that's some good news on that front for a change.
Mrs. Stanford?
I really don't have anything to say.
Okay. Mr. Back?
Just a couple things. Over Thanksgiving break, we will be having, Payton City High School, Magnolia High School floor refinish, gym floor refinish. They chose to do it over Thanksgiving. And then we'll do short lines also because this summer wasn't a good time to do short lines. Payton City Elementary, they've, on the gymatorium, it's moving along. I mean, it's not really a quick process at this particular time, but they have done all the core sampling. We were there last week and did the kind of the facilities walkthrough with McKinley and Corps of Engineers and so forth. Valley's greenhouse is still, they're still constructing it. As far as transportation side, continuing to train drivers. So we have a few that are in the different stages of the training program done by Mrs. Willis, so we are continuing to train those. I think fall trips are officially complete, and the winter trips have all been submitted, they've been turned in, and Mrs. Fox has scheduled those with the drivers and so forth. So going from fall to winter as far as trips, basically. So I have Mrs. Wells, thank you very much.
Ms. Houston?
I just have a couple things. Just give you a heads up that in the near future, you might be hearing something that the state is rolling out. We're thinking maybe next week, where students who took the state testing last year, there will be a video file that will be emailed to them. It'll come from us. Mr. Ferson will do his magic, and it'll go via to their email, and parents will be able to watch a video, a slight video that tells about how their children, you know, what they did with the state testing. I was pushing for Morgan Freeman to narrate, but I think it's going to be Superintendent Burke. So that's something interesting coming out. That, you know, it's November, but you know, it's just taking them that long. Hopefully next year it'll come out in August. That's the plan. Second thing, I just wanted to just say kudos to 100 High School, and this is not something because she's my sister, but Mrs. Duckworth with the baking courses out there was selected to go to the Greenbrier and take 2 students, and I think it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, selected to attend the Greenbrier to go through their kitchens and work with their culinary experts. And there was a very select few people that were selected to do this, so it's a pretty big honor for 100 High School.
Called Greenbrier University or something like that?
Greenbrier University.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to go stay at the Greenbrier and hobnob in the kitchens and.
Right, with a Michelin star.
Michelin's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big time honor.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Houston. Mrs. McPherson?
Before I go, I see that technology is cooperating, so I'm gonna turn it back over to Mr. McPherson.
I'm going to be real fast here. I'm going to blame WVNet. They've had some horrible downstream issues with things. So there's the WCS app. I open it, the first time you open it, you do have to go to settings, a little wheel there. And if you're following every school, you'll see every school's calendar, which is what you want. And if you go to the calendar and say, you know, I have some time on Wednesday, November 10th, what's going on in the county? And I see there's Veterans Day Assembly at Long Drain School. There's an 8th grade PowerPoint at Long Drain School. Or if I want to know what's going on the 12th, I can see that there's a spelling bee all day at Payton Elementary School and Veterans Day program at New Martinsville School at 1:30. So everything feeds into that, sporting events and everything. And if you're interested also, the activity stream's interesting. It's everything on social media that's posted and all news items that are posted and calendar items as well. So if you kind of want to know what's going on or what has already happened, that's a good place to find it. So after 3 tries, no one remembers the thousands of things that go right every day, but everybody always remembers that one thing that doesn't go quite right. And that's all I'll remember today
And you
too.
said the app is just Wetzel County Schools?
Yep, if you search Wetzel County Schools, you will find the app. And like I said, if anybody runs into a problem, by all means ask, I'll help you out. I have it on an iPhone and I have it on my personal phone, which is Android, and it works fine, so. Thanks.
So child nutrition hat time, same issues that we've been having with the supply chain, working through them the best we can. We're looking for alternate methods of procuring food. I have been working with our finance department on getting creative on how we can do this as well. So as soon as I get a little bit more information, hopefully we'll be able to get a few more items that we're having difficulties finding at this time. I've been working, switch hats, Wetzel County Tech Center. We've been working with SREB and tech centers that work, and very, very excited to be working with them and to take these next steps. So while we're looking at the tech center and what these next steps are, Mrs. Wells invited me to join her on a webinar with the State Department, where Wetzel County was identified as being an innovative county and being recommended to do a step 2 of a pilot entrepreneurship program. So being able to sit and listen to this and to see what's coming down the pike in that program, and bring it back and share with Mr. Houston and get everyone back on board. We have a CTE conference coming up later this month where there's going to be a lot more information given to us, but it was fantastic to hear, you know, that little Wetzel County is being recognized for all the fantastic things that are being done.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to add something. If you look back on the first page of your agenda, you'll see under retirement, the second name is one of our own who has sat with us for many years. And it's very hard for me to, just as hard as it was for me to say this when we approved Mr. Batten's retirement, that Ms. Novotny brings with her the mild demeanor, but the will to make improvements, and dogged determination and advocacy for children with special needs. It is going to be so hard to find a replacement that has the knowledge and the grace and the advocacy skills that Ms. Novotny has and has brought to our county for a number of years. I remember as a student at WVU, I went to grad school, and Debbie was teaching it with my mother at the time. And I remember she was in a grad class with me, and I just thought that was so cool. You know, here I was, little Tammy, in my first grad class, and there was a teacher from Wetzel County Schools sitting in there with me, and you know, I have fond memories of her teaching with Mom and with me in grad classes, and then I got the opportunity to come back to Wetzel County Schools and work with Debbie in a number of ways, and have valued, Debbie, my relationship with you, and am so grateful for what you've done for Wetzel County
Thank
Schools.
you so much, Tammy, it means a lot.
Okay.
Appreciate your kind
So
words.
what I will say, she will be greatly missed by all.
And I'll miss everyone.
And I do also want to talk about last year. We took a hit in the press because we came live. We were asked to come live on a board meeting and talk about grades and how many kids in light of the fact that we had a staggered schedule, an AB schedule, et cetera, last year, how student achievement was or was not going. Mr. McPherson ran some numbers for us today. And at the end of the first quarter, 100 High School has decreased their number of Fs from,
Number of students with one F.
number of students with one F, by 16.12%. Magnolia High School has decreased their number of students with one F, it's a 30.67% decrease. Payton City had a 20.60% decrease, and Valley High School had a 31.15% decrease in students with one F. And I think that, since we did take a hit in the press with this, with Channel 9, and with the public, I think that the public has a right to know that that is decreasing, and we attribute that to being in person and, you know, back pretty much as normal as we can be, given the pandemic. So I thank Mr. McPherson for crunching those numbers, and that certainly goes toward accountability and achievement, and I wanted to share that with you at this meeting. And that is all we have, sir.
Thank you. Board members, any?
Maybe I missed it. Did we get a copy of the second monthly audit report?
I did not send it. I did not send it.
There's really not anything to, I mean, we can do a screenshot of it. There's not really it's a misnomer, I guess. It's really not a report.
It's the chart, though, that says.
There's a chart with enrollment, if that's what
You're
you're.
talking from me, or
Yes.
did, yes,
I'm
you're
asking
talking.
you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bates sent that out.
okay.
My secretary sent that out. Did you not receive that?
I'll have to go back and look, cause I don't remember seeing
If we can get it, make sure they
Yeah,
get it, that's
yeah.
not a problem.
I can
Thank
send it,
you.
I'll send it to all 5 of you tomorrow.
it. All right, thank you.
Board members, any other questions? Thank everybody, and, for your work and your thoughts, tonight as well. And glad to hear numbers are improving.
Yes.
And we'll just stay on that trajectory.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what we're listening to.
With no other issues before the board this evening, then I believe, Madam Chair. The dates and times of the next, meetings are, special meetings on the 9th, 18th, and 30th for LSIC within Martinsville School, Shortline School, Payton City Elementary, Magnolia Valley, and Payton City High School. Those are the rest of our LSIC meetings. They're all coming up again on November 9th, November 18th, and November 30th. With that noted, I would move for adjournment.
I'll second.
Has been moved and properly second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.